sharp buzz of hospital monitors filled the emergency ward, a mechanical symphony of beeps, hisses, and alarm chimes. Nurse Olivia Green moved briskly down the hallway, clipboard in hand, dark curls tucked into a bun, eyes alert. It was a Monday, always the worst, and the hospital was stretched thin. Again. Room 314, Dr. Hayes said as he passed her. He's coding again. 5th time today. I don't know how he's still hanging on. Olivia nodded without breaking stride. Room 314. Caleb James. 10 years old, thin as a rail, big brown eyes, and a smile that somehow still showed up when she brought him apple juice. He was waiting for a heart, an urgent transplant, or at the very least emergency surgery to place a temporary VAD. But the red tape was choking the life out of him faster than his condition. Insurance complications, hospital admin bottlenecks, a paperwork glitch, a funding dispute. Caleb had become just another casualty of a system that counted numbers before lives. Inside room 314, his mother Dana sat beside his bed, holding his frail hand. Olivia entered quietly, her face composed but her heart racing. Caleb was unconscious again, breathing shallow and slow, the monitor rhythm faltering. He had another spell, Dana whispered, eyes glassy from too many nights without sleep. The doctors say maybe it's time to stop. Olivia's jaw clenched. Time to stop. Caleb was a child, 10, still laughed at cartoons when he had the strength, still said please and thank you, still told her just yesterday that he wanted to be a superhero doctor when he grew up. But he might not grow up, not if she followed the rules. Later that afternoon, Olivia sat alone in the break room, hands trembling slightly around her coffee. She had done everything by the book, filed the urgency notes, escalated it to the board, pleaded with the chief surgeon. No luck. I'm sorry, Nurse Green, the administrator had said with professional coldness. Without authorization from insurance, we can't perform the surgery. The ethics board will not approve it. We could be sued. Olivia stared at the file in her lap. Patient, Caleb James. Diagnosis, dilated cardiomyopathy. Risk, imminent cardiac arrest. Recommendation, emergency surgical intervention, temporary VAD support. She exhaled. Her mind drifted to her sister Sarah. Died at 16, undiagnosed heart condition. By the time they reached the ER, it was too late. That had been 22 years ago. Olivia had been 19, and watching Sarah slip away had made her promise, never again. She took a deep breath. And then she did it. She walked to the nurse's station, sat at the computer, and opened Caleb's file. She deleted one tag, and added another, trauma case, immediate surgical priority. In the eyes of the hospital system, Caleb was now a top-tier emergency. No insurance pre-approval needed. Olivia printed the updated chart and slipped it into his file like a secret folded between heartbeats. She knew what she was doing. It was illegal. It was falsification. It could end her career. But it could also save a life. That evening, chaos struck the ER. A multi-car pileup flooded the trauma ward, and the OR was fully staffed. Dr. Blake, the cardiovascular surgeon, glanced at Caleb's updated chart as he triaged new cases. What's this? He asked Olivia. He got bumped to trauma. She gave a small nod. He coded again, and he's crashing fast. You said yourself. He doesn't have long. Dr. Blake frowned, flipping through the documents. This doesn't match what I saw last week. He's deteriorating fast. You can check his latest vitals if you need confirmation, Olivia said, her voice calm, steady. Blake stared at her, then nodded slowly. Get him prepped for the OR. Let's give him a shot. Ta. The surgery lasted 4 hours. Caleb lived. The VAD was placed successfully. By the time Olivia came into his room the next morning, he was groggy but awake. Dana looked up at her, tears streaking her face. You saved my son, she whispered. Thank you. Olivia swallowed hard. He's a fighter. All I did was push a few papers. But she knew, and soon so would the hospital. 3 days later, Olivia was called to the administrative boardroom. 5 faces sat across a long polished table. The chief of medicine, a legal representative, an HR officer, the ethics chair, and Dr. Hayes. The folder sat in front of them, Caleb's case. "We have a concern," the administrator said calmly, opening the folder. "It appears there was a modification in the classification of the patient that was neither documented nor approved." Olivia didn't speak. Dr. Hayes folded his hands. "We're aware that the decision may have contributed to saving the patient's life, but falsifying medical documentation is a serious violation, Olivia." "Is it true?" the HR officer asked. "Did you alter the chart?" Olivia met their eyes. "Yes," she said, "I did." Silence. "You do understand this could lead to termination, loss of license, and potential criminal charges?" "I do." "Why did you do it?" Olivia's voice cracked, but only slightly. "Because the system was going to let a 10-year-old boy die over a technicality. Because the insurance company said no, and your ethics committee said wait, and I looked at that boy, and I knew he wouldn't survive another day. I did what I had to do." The legal rep sighed. "We'll be reporting this to the nursing board. You'll be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation." She stood, her hands trembling only once she turned away. Weeks passed. The board reviewed her case. News leaked through internal channels. Some called her a hero. Others whispered liar. A nurse falsifying records could not be tolerated, no matter the reason. Olivia submitted her resignation before they could fire her. Her license was suspended. She was publicly reprimanded. Hospitals wouldn't touch her. She took a job at a local community clinic, working under strict oversight. She smiled for her patients. She did her job, but a part of her stayed buried in room 314, beside a frail boy with too many tubes in his chest and a smile that never gave up. Years passed, 10 of them. Then 5 more. She never heard from Caleb again. Until the letter arrived. It was a simple envelope with no return address. Inside a card, elegant, black and gold. "You are cordially invited to the 15th Annual American Heart Foundation Gala. Keynote speaker, Dr. Caleb James, Maryland. Fax, recipient of the National Humanitarian Surgeon Award. Date, March 12th. Location, Chicago, Illinois. Note, please bring this card to the VIP entrance." A second note was attached. "If you are who I think you are, please come. I never forgot. I need to thank you properly. CJ." Olivia stared at the invitation for hours after she first opened it. She sat on the small porch of her rented duplex, a cup of tea gone cold beside her. The envelope lay on her lap, light as air but heavy with everything she thought she had buried years ago. Shame, fear, loss. And a sliver of hope she hadn't dared entertain in years. Caleb James. Alive, a doctor, a keynote speaker. And somehow, after all this time, he remembered. She wasn't sure how. He'd been unconscious for the days leading up to his surgery, barely aware of his surroundings when he woke. Surely Dana, his mother, had told him something. But enough to invite her to a black tie gala, enough to call her out of a life she'd chosen to stay hidden in. Olivia folded the invitation, held it against her chest, and closed her eyes. It had been 15 years. 15 years since she'd altered that chart, since she sat in front of the disciplinary board, admitted everything without excuse, and walked out of the hospital she'd once called her second home. Her license had been suspended for 9 months. She'd been officially reprimanded and blacklisted from every major hospital in the state. When the board finally reinstated her credentials, no one wanted to touch her. Not after the press had labeled her the rogue nurse who played God. But she had no regrets. Not one. Because Caleb James lived. And now he wanted to see her. March 12th arrived on a rainy Chicago evening. Olivia stood outside the ballroom entrance of the Grand Astoria Hotel in a simple black dress. Her curls had streaks of grey now, her eyes ringed with the fine lines of sleepless years and quiet suffering. But she stood tall, composed. The security guard at the velvet rope glanced at her invitation, nodded once, and unhooked the barrier. "Right this way, Miss Green, VIP section." She hesitated. "Miss Green." She hadn't heard her name spoken with respect in a long time. Inside, the room shimmered with crystal chandeliers, laughter and low-string music. Waiters in tuxedos passed by with champagne. Olivia slipped into a seat near the back of the VIP section, unnoticed. At the front of the ballroom was a large stage, backed by a screen displaying photos of children with heart defects, survivors, and smiling doctors. Then a tall figure took the stage. He was in his mid-20s now, handsome, confident, brown eyes alive with conviction. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced, "please welcome this year's keynote speaker, founder of the James Foundation for Pediatric Cardiology, and the youngest surgeon to lead a multi-hospital transplant program, Dr. Caleb James." The applause was thunderous. Olivia clapped softly, her throat tight. Caleb stepped to the podium. "I almost didn't live to see my 11th birthday," he began, his voice steady but resonant. "I was a very sick kid, more machines than muscle, more doctors than friends. I spent my childhood watching my mother cry through glass walls and learning to tell when a nurse was pretending not to panic." A gentle wave of laughter rolled through the crowd. "But one night," he continued, "my heart gave out again. I was dying. Everyone had given up hope. The system had failed. The money wasn't there. The forms weren't signed. The rules said wait." He paused. But someone didn't wait. The room went quiet. Caleb looked around. Someone saw more than a patient ID. She saw a 10-year-old boy who still believed in superheroes. A nurse who, in one act of defiance, saved my life. Olivia stopped breathing. She broke the rules. She altered my chart. She lied to the hospital. And I am alive today because of her. Whispers stirred. Many of you know her name from the news back then. Some called her reckless. Some wanted her fired. But I call her something else. He stepped away from the podium. I call her the reason I exist. A stunned hush filled the room. Caleb turned and scanned the crowd. "I don't know if she's here tonight," he said, "but if she is, Olivia Green, this moment belongs to you." The crowd shifted. Then Olivia stood. Not because she wanted to, but because her legs moved on their own, like her body remembered something her soul hadn't dared in years. Pride. Caleb's eyes found hers and lit up. Applause erupted. Tears stung Olivia's eyes as she stepped toward the stage, people parting for her like a wave. When she reached him, he extended his hand. She took it. And then, unexpectedly, he pulled her into a tight, grateful hug. "She saved my life," he whispered against her shoulder. "I never forgot." Later, during the private reception, Olivia sat with Caleb and Dana in a quiet lounge. "She told me everything eventually," Caleb said, sipping water. "I was 16 when she finally explained. I found the hospital reports and the board ruling. I was angry at first, then I was in awe. I didn't want him to think he was alive because someone broke the law," Dana said. "But then I realized he was alive because someone chose compassion over bureaucracy." Olivia shook her head. "I didn't think it would matter to anyone. I lost everything." "You didn't," Caleb said. "You saved everything." He pulled out a folder and handed it to her. She opened it slowly. It was a letter from the National Medical Ethics Board, recommending the removal of all past disciplinary marks from her record. A second document confirmed her full reinstatement, not just as a nurse, but eligible for senior teaching positions, mentorship programs, and award consideration. "I called in a few favors," Caleb said, grinning. "Turns out saving a few hundred lives opens some doors." I don't know what to say," Olivia whispered, overwhelmed. "Say you'll mentor new nurses," Caleb said. "Say you'll help change the system from within. Say you'll never hide again." Tears fell freely now. "I promise," she said. Months later, Olivia stood behind a podium herself, for the first time in decades, addressing a room full of nursing students. She held Caleb's case file in her hands, worn and faded, but preserved. "This is the file of a boy who should have died," she began. "Not because of medicine, not because we didn't know how to help him, but because paperwork said we couldn't. Because bureaucracy stood in front of compassion." She looked at the students, wide-eyed, young, hopeful. "I'm not here to tell you to break rules," she said. "I'm here to tell you to see the human being behind every chart, to listen, to care, and yes, to be brave when no one else is." They applauded. She smiled. Because Olivia Green was no longer the nurse who lied. She was the nurse who lived to tell the truth. The end.